Hello, this is MJ,
Hello, this is Cassie.
and welcome to another episode of Intimate Conversation Online Exploration. And this week, Cassie, the topic was
Emotional unavailable.
so what does it look like? What does it feel like to either be the person who's emotionally unavailable or be with somebody who's emotionally unavailable or attracting somebody that's emotionally unavailable? So we explored that.
Yes, we did. And we had so much good feedback for a participant today regarding that. So I think the first thing what I learned is it's easier to be the listener than sharing your emotion to someone. And what I learned, we all have in the group that we had, like emotion available, it's always about fear. It's a part about fear. Fear to get hurt, fear from past experience that what you share got used against you later on, or also from the way you were raised by your parents. If you were raised in a household that they told you emotional or bad, that's mean if you're crying, you're hurt, you're vulnerable, this is considered bad, that you grow up as a person not sharing your emotion, and also how your partner will react when you don't share your emotion.
Definitely, definitely. There's definitely a component of what we program ourselves as a kid when it comes to sharing our emotion, and we're a lot more cautious as soon as we get hurt somehow for sharing whatever that is: anger, love, fear, sadness. If it comes out and the way that is received is threatening to
Yes.
us, then we kind of continue to bring that into like future relationships and stuff like that. And also, we might attract that because we're more comfortable not having people sharing their emotion as well. Like it's possible that parents did not share their emotion when you're a kid, or like certain emotions. So then
Yeah.
you're going to seek somebody who's not sharing their emotion because that's what you're comfortable with, even though that's not what you want.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
completely agree with that. And also, what I remember with the conversation we had this morning is when we listen to emotion, it's easier to listen, but also sometimes you create that dynamic in your couple that you're only the person who listen. You're the listener. But also, when you're the listener, you have to put in yourself also and ask yourself that I don't need to give my advice or fix it or try to make to forget my own emotion. I think it's a balance about how grounded that you are with yourself and how comfortable you are with your emotion.
Yeah. It's almost as if it becomes like a self sabotage or a trap to be the listener, because you might think that as being the listener, you're emotionally available because you let the person express themselves. But you're also deflecting because you're not expressing yourself. You're just allowing the person to express themselves, so then you don't have to say anything. It's like, so all the emotions on their side, but you're not making yourself available for the other person. And again, you don't get to have that connection that you actually ultimately are looking for.
Exactly. And also when we're thinking about being in a couple, being in a relationship, or creating bonds with your friends or anything else in your life is when you don't share your emotion, you cannot communicate who you are.
Mm.
And you're keeping it to yourself and you're blocking yourself of happiness. You're blocking yourself of love. It is true. Sharing your emotion, sharing your vulnerability is something that is hard. It's something I working every day about it, but is once you share it, you will know if the person is okay to open up about it and how the person react. If that partner want to be with you, he will understand your emotion. He will try to understand, and vice versa. So if you're not opening it, you're not creating a bond in that relationship.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of these things where it has to go both ways in order for the relationship to work. Because I mean, I think that might have been part of one of the mistakes that I've made in the past, where I opened up until a certain point, and then I was just on the receiving end of emotion as much as the other person was willing to give, but not opening up at the same time. But it also brought one of the topics that we talked about. The In order for some of us to be able to open, we have to feel that it's a safe place to be able to open up. And I know that I'm a layered type of person. I'll test and see how far I can open up my emotion to you. And if I get to a point where I feel like you don't have the capacity to handle or support that emotion in a way that I feel safe, then I become emotionally unavailable in a sense.
Yeah, and that I completely agree with that because for me it was a little bit different. I was more the listener because I was trying to fix. So
Mm,
I was not putting myself emotional available, but I was okay to listen to all my previous partner and listen to all the emotion and being the fixer. And the reason why I think I was being the fixer because I didn't want to be in sync with my emotion. For me, it was easier to try to fix someone. And like I said, we cannot fix someone who doesn't want help. A person doesn't want to change is not our job. But I know for me, it's easier for the person to open the emotion than me opening up my emotion, because if I open my emotion, I will get hurt. I will feel weakness because I think for me, in a long period of my life, I thought emotion equal weakness. If you show your weakness, people will use it against you.
mhm.
And also sometimes it happened when I open relationship, but I open to the wrong person. And that's something I'm learning in an everyday basic, that is okay to open your emotion when you're ready and you feel in a safe space, that you create that trust, but
Mhm.
also is the best way that someone could learn how to know you about, like
Oh,
know who you are.
absolutely, absolutely. It's one of these things where I know also for me, it's one of these things where I have to learn, I'm still learning, to just open up a little bit more quickly
Mhm.
as opposed to taking forever. Because the thing is, taking forever to open, then you become emotionally unavailable. So taking a little bit more risk, but still keeping in mind that it's important to make sure that whoever you're opening up to is a safe person to open up to with.
Exactly.
But you do that through testing. Like you don't
Yes.
have to open up everything, but still open up a little bit and see if they open up as well. See how that person is reacting, how you're reacting, and you kind of keep going and don't stop when it starts to be a little bit more scary. Because there's, I don't know for you, but there's like a certain amount that I'm comfortable sharing anyways, like I'm okay with that, and then you get into the deep end and then
Yeah.
I'm not into that.
And to be honest, the deeper end is the hardest part. That's the part that you create a routine in your relationship.
Mm,
And I think is to be an observer also. Observe, like people think emotion is when you're sad or you're happy or something like that. And a relationship is like if you're mad in a fight. Okay, you guys have a little ridiculous fight because he doesn't like coffee and he doesn't like the fact you're smoking. How are you gonna how are you gonna talk about his reaction about it? So it's also to see, like I will say, hey, I didn't like that the way you did it. It make me feel this way. And if the person understands you, will open up. It's to start with a little small
mhm.
step.
Yeah.
And once you're getting more comfortable and you see the person reaction, is to open up. Don't go on a first date and tell people, oh my God, this is who I am, blah, blah, blah. No, you need to create that bond and that safe space. That's why I think it's very important, that safe space in a couple,
Yeah.
to make sure that I am the listener, but I also have the right to express my emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a dance essentially, and it's very
Yes.
interesting because one of the participants was saying like I don't even know anymore like when or how to open up on a date and stuff like I'm just I don't know, like I'm not even at that point anymore. And it's interesting. Well, the thing that came to me is like, well, you can still open up about just how you feel in a situation and see how the other person react. It doesn't have to be like, this is my story when I was a kid and I'm feeling like, no, that's too much in a date. But how you feel in the present moment during the date for whatever reason, like you feel, I don't know, annoyed or angry, like allow yourself to have these feelings and express them. Not go, if you're angry, like just go unleash on the person. That's unconscious. But like if you feel annoyed by something that they did, for example, express it
Yeah.
and then talk about it and see how they react to it. Because if, for example, they're defensive or they start accusing you or whatever because you say you're upset about something, then like maybe that person's not emotionally mature enough to handle the fact that people have feelings and we have to deal with them.
Yeah. And also, it's also to see if your partner taking your emotion for granted, is to
Mm,
see how that person's going to react and also how you're going to react with someone emotion. So if you notice that person is taking granted or bring it back to his own emotion, it's also you're not emotion available either. That
mm.
person is not, because it's easier for him to bring it back to his emotion than bring it to deal with the emotion that you have at that moment present.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's interesting because they're actually, I just realized this, they're actually great tests to see if the person that you're with is somebody that's emotionally available or not. Because if they shut you down as soon as, like, if for example you're sad and they try to quickly, like, oh, you shouldn't be crying or whatever type thing, or try to bypass or try to ridiculous, like make you feel bad or make it ridiculous that you feel a certain way because of something, then you're like, I don't know.
That's why I think it's very important. And it's a hard thing. Like, it's the
Mhm,
hardest thing is to share your emotion. It's a hard thing to cry with someone, or tell that person, you hurt me, I felt like this, and you
mhm,
have to understand the way I feel. Or even to be the person that hurt someone and listen and let that person express himself.
yeah.
It's hard when someone tell you, hey, I hurt you today, I did not like the way you react to me, the reason why the situation you put me in this position, and that make me feel. And it's also to always keep an open mind to see how I will, like, I could be the person who hurt, but also I could be the person that I'm hurting also. So
Yeah.
how I'm going to create that bond and understand my action and my reaction for the sake of my relationship, or the sake of being human, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all again a question of being conscious. And there's this, like, even this feeling, because I'm thinking about this whole introvert extrovert thing. Even if you're on a date and for some reason one of you feels uncomfortable, because that's kind of an emotion as well,
Mhm.
are you able to express to the person you're with that you feel uncomfortable and find a solution? Or you just going to hide it and then kind of just move on? That's a problem right from the get-go. If you can't
Yes.
express that you're feeling uncomfortable, which is not like a major feeling, but it's still a feeling,
Yes.
you can't deal with that, that's going to bring trouble, I think, later on.
Yes. And I think it could be like planning a date with the first person, like the first person that you met, you're getting an attraction, you have a good feeling, and that person is telling you want to go to a vegan restaurant. I will be feeling uncomfortable because I'm not more prone to vegan food. So it's how I'm going to express that. That's okay for me to express that, to say, hey, I'm not a really fan, but let's find a middle ground, or and see how the person's going to react.
Mhm.
If the person's like, okay, that's cool with me, let's find a middle ground. And if the person say, no, for me, you're not available to my emotion with the most simple situation of life.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Definitely. Yeah. There's a lot of things to uncover just by opening up a little bit and seeing how the other person reacts to that.
Yes.
And again, it's like in layers.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be crazy, but in layers, then you get to know the other person. Or if you as well, like, it's not just the other person, but if you also are um, emotionally available, or if you're emotionally unavailable. Because if somebody confines with something to you and you feel uncomfortable and you want to change the topic as soon as possible, you might not be emotionally available right now.
Exactly, exactly. And if you I know one of my thing that I used to not deal with my emotion is I joke around, I laugh, I'm being sarcastic because
Mm,
that's my mechanism of defense, not to open up. And I'm trying to learn not to do that. It's a work in progress to see, why do I'm creating a joke? Because it's easier for me to laugh about it than show to someone my emotion about it.
mhm, mhm. It's definitely some great things to explore, to just get a better understanding of where you stand in terms of emotional availability, and where your partner or the people that you're attracting stand in terms of emotional availability. Because sometimes people attract people that are completely emotionally unavailable. You kind of have to ask yourself, am I attracting these people because I myself am emotionally unavailable?
So for me, what I always say is like, is you have to be okay with your emotion to be able to open your emotion. If you're having that track to date people who's not available with their emotion because a part of you is not really okay with your emotion, and how are you gonna change that patterns? I know that's one of my patterns. I I attract guys who's not open with the emotional. I know for me is that little fixer part of my head who like to fix things. I do like to fix things, a human being, but at the same time, it's all about why I'm doing that. And I remember when I figured that on therapist and therapy, it was because I was it was easier for me to do that than open my emotion or showing my I'm sad, or I'm like I'm not happy. It was easier for me. So it's a learning in progress, I guess.
That makes
And
sense.
also, we didn't get a chance to talk about the sign that they also have the sign that we attract. What is a sign of someone who's emotional unavailable?
Yeah.
Is to figure out those signs to understand that that person is not ready to open up, and to see what are you expecting for that. Because if someone doesn't want to open up, it doesn't want to change, it's not your job to change that person.
Or trying to open them up. And I think when you're at the point where you're trying to get somebody to become more emotional towards you, you have to ask yourself, why are you in the position where you're trying to get the person to be more emotional with you? And it's interesting because now it reminds me of like what ended, in a sense, my relationship was, that was part of it. This whole idea of like being emotionally unavailable, in my opinion, for what I needed, type thing. And realizing at a certain point, why am I trying to get that person to be more available? Because I'm trying to change somebody, and that's never going to happen, type thing. Perhaps in my case, I don't know, like it's a hindsight 2020. Perhaps I came to a point where I was ready to be more emotionally available compared to before, maybe. Because right now, what I'm looking for is somebody who's going to be emotionally available so we can go a little deeper. But I don't think I was ready for that before.
Yeah, I agree with you. For me, it was a bit the opposite from my past relationship. I was open to be emotional available, but the person was not. So what I'm looking now is more the sign of someone who's emotional available, who want to talk about his emotion, who's able to express his emotion, but also who's able to respect my emotion. So you could be with someone who open about their emotion, but their emotion come before your emotion, and they don't respect that. So that's something I learned from my previous relationship is my emotion are worth it. But are you going to try to understand my emotion, or are you going to dismiss them, or are you going to ignore my emotion? So that's something I'm learning now.
Yeah. And it reminds me of one of the things that we talked about in the session with the group, was this whole idea of like some people that are emotionally offloading on you.
Yes.
Especially if you're an empath, that could be dangerous, for lack of a better term. It could be concerning to have somebody like, oh, okay, I'm looking for somebody who's emotionally available, but what they're doing is like emotional vomit, for lack of a better term, onto you, and you kind of take on all these things, and you're not really having a relationship. You're just there for them to dump all their emotion on you, and then they feel good, and then you're just left there with like, okay, now what?
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because I think we said that before, that person is also the person who's offloading, is also someone who's emotionally unavailable, because they kind of just dump all their feelings and then they move on. It doesn't mean that they feel better, and there's no relationship really going on. They just got rid of things that I don't know that it wasn't serving them, but that was disturbing them, and then they kind of just move on. It's just not a good thing.
No, exactly. That's why I think it's very important to have, like, for me, emotion equal communication. Is the way you speak about your emotion, the way you communicate to the emotion for the other person to understand. And also is to respect the other person communications. Like we always say, relationship take two person to dance. It take two person to fight for that relationship. But what is very important is to have both sides, like to have been that for once in my life, open up with my emotion, and not feel the person listening to my emotion. That was something for me I noticed was a red flag. I was like, I am open to my emotion. I listen to your emotion, but you don't take my emotion for you ignore my emotion. Like, and that's something you have to be careful also.
Yeah. Again, you have to be aware. You have to be conscious. You have to be aware, and you have to know when it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that's one of the things that I was telling you before, that's really interesting to start looking into when you're dating people, is to look to see if they're emotionally compatible with you.
Yes.
They might be compatible physically or whatever type thing, but are they emotionally compatible? Can they fill up your cup the same way that you can fill up their cup, for them to feel that they're fulfilled emotionally?
Yes.
So that's a very important thing to kind of look into when you're dating. Yeah. Probably talk more about that, but yeah. There's
Yeah.
different aspects to look into when you're dating
Yes,
somebody,
it's a
and that's
little
something.
different aspect. Like I always say, we're human, we're complex humans. So we need to find what's the best way for us and what's the
Hmm.
best way we want to communicate our emotion
Hmm.
and what we're looking for as a partner. If you want an emotion, someone who's matured about their emotion, how you could attract that
Hmm.
is to know, I think it's to know yourself and to know what you need and what you want and what you could give.
Yeah. And what are you ready also? Because let's not forget that a lot of people have trauma when it
Yes,
comes to their childhood. So that's going to affect what they're able to give and receive in terms of emotion. And some people just might not be ready to receive a
exactly.
certain type of emotion. And you have to respect that and be like, well, I mean, that's where you're at. Good luck to you. But I'm at this level and I really need somebody to be more open or less intense, like some people were going to say, because they're
Yeah.
just ready to go deep. So to be aware of that, be aware first of all of where you're at yourself, what you need, and then when you actually meet people, you can check with them where they at and if it's going to work or not.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
completely agree with that.
Hmm.
That's something I 100% agree with.
Yeah, it's a new thing. Never thought
Yeah.
about it until today.
I know. That's why I love this conversation. And yeah, it's always making me think about I always call the miseducation of dating. That's why I call our thing, like Lauren
Nice.
Hale, miseducation of Lauren
Nice. I
Hale.
like
I
it.
call it the miseducation of dating because for me, I could have something I think it was right that I thought it was good to go. But more I think about it, more we have the conversation and we have different participants giving us their opinion, being vulnerable, being open to different strangers they never met, and answer questions that we create. And they make me change also. They
Of
make me change
course.
my perspective about what I thought that was good. So
Absolutely, 100%. That's one of the benefits of these things. Nobody is born knowing everything, especially about relationship. Nobody teach you anything. They kind of just like, just go. Good luck. Sometimes
good
it works.
luck.
Sometimes it doesn't. Here are some Disney movies.
Oh yeah, we're not gonna
Yeah.
go. You know my opinion about Walt Disney movies, so we're not gonna go that far because that will be a 2 hour special. Me explaining the big complex and the wrong thing about the princess complex of
Oh
Walt Disney
gosh.
movie.
Yeah, yeah.
But that
That
could
could be
be
a
another
topic in the
conversation. Yeah,
future. Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome, awesome. But yeah, no, that was a really good one. And the one that we're going to talk about next time is dealing with dating fatigue.
Yes.
That should be interesting.
Yes, and it's very interesting. The reason why is when you should take a break of dating and when
Yeah.
you should take a break of those apps and ask yourself, do I need some self-care with myself? Because
Yeah.
dating could be a professional sport, I heard. So it's sometimes you need to take a break.
Yeah.
You need to be okay with yourself. So we're very excited about that subject,
Mhm.
dating fatigue. If you guys want to join us about our intimate conversation, we're open for everybody around the world, but we work with the Toronto Eastern Time. So it's every Saturday at 11:30. All the info will be below this video. If you like this video, let us know. Our Instagram, our website is all will be there. So any question, any feedback, we always welcome about it. And I think I did mention everything.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much it. So thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.